Hello, everyone. I haven't prepared a slide, but I have some words to say. So it's a pleasure to be invited to participate here. So I'm an academic and a researcher. I've been working in a knowledge domain called human-centered machine learning. Specifically, I've been researching on the usability of machine learning tools, interactive machine learning tools for creative developers, people who develop music tools in the creative industries, in the design industries. And in the past 4 or 5 years, I've been doing my PhD research in large public-funded projects. One example is Rapid Mix, who had the participation of Atao and Jean-Baptiste when he was at Rowley, and also some people who will probably present more details about this project. Currently, I'm at Sussex University. I'm also working on a project that could be like the follow-up of that project. It's called Mimic, Music Intelligent Machines Interacting Creatively. So it's another consortium, an academic consortium of Sussex, Goldsmiths, and Durham University and Google Magenta. So right in this project, we're focusing on developing specific machine intelligence tools for music producers and artists, and to design their usability to make them really easy and useful for their practice. Perfect. Thanks.
So I actually came from the Royal College of Art, so I know Libby very well. She was my tutor. But I'm actually now at Lancaster University doing a PhD in design, so I feel a bit of a fly on the wall and a bit of an imposter because I don't do AI and I don't do any music with AI, but so basically my PhD title is AI as a Material for Design. So I'm using kind of a philosophical lens and object-orientated ontology to look at AI. So basically that's kind of everything in object-orientated ontology is on a flat ontological basis. So you look at everything and it breaks it all down. So it's talking about those ideas about negotiability, legibility, and agency, but it's also looking at things like what's the business model, and it's also looking at the data sets and how it's being used. So it's looking at everything within that system and seeing it from that perspective and kind of using that as a way to design a better material or a different way of perceiving AI. So I'm a speculative and critical designer, so I'm using that kind of as a portal to interrogate those ideas.
Hello. I'm a performer and a third-year student of architecture at Bartlett School of Architecture. As a part of my, I guess it's quite early to say about my academic interests, but I'm interested in designing spaces for very particular kinds of music or curating immersive experiences such as fashion shows or maybe different ways of presenting art to the audience, less sterile. I have a background of classical music. I'm a trained opera singer. And also as a part of my maybe design interests, I have worked on designing sonic jewelry, and I'm interested in designs of prosthetic nature, such as wearable instruments. I'm currently working on an instrument you could wear while singing. And I've curated a few events for the London rave scene. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Smith. I'm actually a developer at a music company. We make kind of music for kids. I'm not going to be able to say it all. But we currently doing quite a... Did everyone get a photo? Who wants? We've won a few awards, but it's kind of mostly grassroots, and we're currently doing research on how we can use machine learning to teach, aid in performance, teach things like improvisation. But whilst kind of doing this research, it kind of threw up a few interesting ethical concerns to do with the fact that we teach children, and it's children's data that we're kind of analysing. And so I've actually now been funded. I'm going back to university. I'm going, just starting an MA in Digital Music and Sonic Art, Brighton, which is a new MA there. And I'm also a practitioner. I make kind of installations, so I'm kind of really interested in this talk, because it's kind of looking at the ethics of if we're constantly feeding the AI, the machines, with our data, what's allowable with that data? What's the ethics of kind of analysing children against other children? There's a lot of kind of questions that I've got, and it's great to be here surrounded by people. So yeah, I'm looking to build a nice large installation looking at kind of choral and classic traditions, kind of coming from musical background. That's what kids quite often in a lot of schools that I have to visit, they see this thing, but how can we bring it up to date? How can we kind of get a conversation between the machines and their kind of experience? So yeah, that's me.
Thanks so much to all of the organizers, to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to learning a lot. So my name is Zeynep. I'm a lecturer in music at Queen's University Belfast, and I have been working on voice, and I decided to join the workshop as part of my forthcoming book, which I'm finishing, hopefully. It has taken ages to finish it. It's called Building a Voice, Sound, Surface, Skin. And it draws on voice and experimental music and media art. And it basically attempts to theorize voice, not reduced to verbal language, not reduced to human body or vocal cords even. So one aspect is AI, and I'm interested in human and machine speech. And I'm looking at the implications of AI, both within the context of aesthetic context, I suppose, music and media art, but also histories within the context of histories of speech, syntheses and recognition technologies. And some of the questions, I think Eleni's wonderful opening already echoed, most of the questions that I've been asking. But obviously, I'm looking at accountability, the companionship between human and machine speech, how we can contest the accountability of language, voice, what speaks, perhaps interacting with machines or non-human bodies. But also I'm interested in the errancy of speech. I'm interested in the errors, unlikely associations, and misunderstandings of both human and machine speech, and how they may actually prompt us with new modes of communication. And also, last question, how and why we tend to humanize digital assistants. So this is something that I'm also interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, thanks again for being here. It feels amazing. I do feel quite out of my depth. My 70% of the time I'm a software developer. The other 30% of the time I'm a performer. And really, I did have a rock band, we split up. Improvisation, which this is, actually. So I was also approaching a sort of research question myself, and done lots of improvisation and came up with the really olden days, the caveman days, I've got to be quick, where we'd all be improvising. There wouldn't really be a thing that was music. And then the sort of more recent olden days, we suddenly created these sort of specialists, professionals that are musicians, and we pay to go and see them, etc. And within that, capitalism, money has become sort of linked to that. So this all started to interest me, really, the dynamics between just having a jam, which I love, and then the sort of paying to go and see a gig and this whole sort of big machine that goes round, and the sort of balance between the two. And then moving to, I didn't mention the fourth wall, that's a key element. In the olden days, you didn't really have or in a jam, you don't have a fourth wall. Sometimes you do, you can choose. Anyway, you now potentially have the fourth wall disappeared altogether, and we all can create this amazing stuff with all this tech that we're developing. But I become increasingly concerned about the way that can be hacked, and it's a very sort of insidious, sort of subtle, under the radar thing to me, there's a correlation between what happens in a jam where you sort of have this kind of, someone starts leading it and someone follows, and sometimes someone starts crying, and there's a sort of, I can't quite express it, but there's something there that I'm interested in researching. So thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.
Hello everyone, and I'm Beverley Hood, so I'm an artist and I'm a reader in technological embodiment and creative practice at the University of Edinburgh. So 1 minute is very quick to sum everything up. What I was going to talk about was just say very briefly that, I've worked with performance, digital media and installation, generally in non-typical spaces, for quite a long time, and a lot of the time, so working in places like medical simulation centres, I work a lot, I collaborate a lot of the work is interdisciplinary, I work with performers, actors, dancers, composers, but also a lot with medics and scientists. The two projects that I've sort of got tiny fragments of today, which are sort of mainly in relation to the AI aspect, the project here, which is called Memorial, which is a project that's funded by Creative Scotland, the Edinburgh Futures Institute, and is developed in collaboration sort of at the minute with the National Theatre of Scotland, potentially. And it's a performance about how we live with the dead in the digital age and digital memorialisation, which is obviously a huge issue that we are living with now, that we live with the dead in many ways. So there's a couple of slides on that. This is an early incarnation of that was presented as a sharing in June. It's very much in its early stages. The other project that I was going to talk about is very much following on from the conversations that we've had here as well, which is in terms of bias in AI, and definitely in terms of gender bias. So we have here from the opening quote from Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, which I'm sure many of you will be aware of, that book, which is exposing data bias in a world designed for men. And my proposition in this is, how about if you do a world designed for women in terms of data, and where gender would actually fit into that, and actually specifically where maleness would fit into that. So that's mine as a provocation, I guess, in a way. Okay, so that's me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lara. I'm an artist. I'm not terribly... I'm just going to give it like a little glimpse of what I do. So in late 2018, as a part of my research for a master's in fine art at CSM, I visited an anechoic chamber. I went to listen to silence, really. But 10 years prior, I experienced a violent incident which left me with bouts of insomnia and tinnitus. And kind of that, I think over a while it subtly informed aspects of my practice. But more recently I've been working, it's because I feel like a bit of an imposter hearing everything, but I do have an interest, so I hope, bear with me. So recently I've been exploring ways to reveal memories that elude expression through words, but are often, I think, recalled more bodily, more physical. And this is framed as a being born into language. So I speculate that tinnitus is the sound of thoughts or residual traces, vibrations or echoes of memory. Perhaps by listening to silence, I think we might be able to hear ourselves in kind of perpetual states of becoming. So with biological data, including MRI scans and ultrasounds and EEG recordings of my brainwaves, I've been trying to find a way to capture the thoughts my thoughts before they're mediated or lost to verbal or written language or spoken language. So using this data, I made it audible through sonification, mixed it with electromagnetic frequencies and infrasonic tones to sort of explore what sound is really and where it might be coming from, originating to and going to. So I've been making kind of speculative compositional imaginings of the tinnitus time. They're like my attempt to get closer to something that's ungraspable about being a human, really, what it means. So yeah, so thank you for having me. It's very good.
Just to say, at Goldsmiths, we are currently running a project looking at how musicians can use music AI in a browser-based framework. It's called Mimic. You can go to mimicproject.com, check it out. We've got lots of demos, guides, and useful libraries.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. I'm a academia. I'm a lecturer in architecture from Northumbria University. So I got my PhD from Nottingham, and it's about how to embed augmented reality inside of museum and art center. And as training as an architect, I'm always concerned about space, architecture, and urban environment. So I have previous work on the Hong Kong Space Museum as a curator, and we have embedded about 17% of interactive installation inside. And another project I have worked on from Nottingham is this red exhibition and using augmented reality and virtual reality. And this is another project we look at to recall memory using old photos and using retinal technology, AR, VR, and MR in the cities. And we draw architects, urban designer, and museum sector and academia, and host a similar workshop like this one. And yes, that's about me. Thank you.
Hello. I'm a PhD student at University of Oxford and a tutor at Bartlett School of Architecture. At Oxford, I'm studying machine learning safety, meaning that I'm trying to quantify what a machine learning model doesn't know, which is a matter of safety. For example, a car that drives needs to react on all situations, and then you have situations like, oh, I trained my car in Europe, and then I let it drive in the UK, and the data said the sensory input is completely out of distribution, so the model needs to know that is out of distribution and react safely. Also, I'm studying the problem of multi-agent communication and cooperation, and that's my research at Oxford. And at Bartlett, we are trying to study the architecture via the frame of multi-agency. So imagine self-organizing systems like building and structures as agents that interact with each other. They have degrees of freedom and they have like sensory input. So you can think of a building as a robot, and we're trying to see how we can utilize this paradigm to create like structures that are providing better and more like ecological, maybe friendly architectures. Thank you.
I'm a composer, very good, and technologist. I'm of the opinion that most, at least traditional music, is formed by movement, yeah, physical movement, often our hands or our mouths and things like that. So I've done a lot of work with dancers and poets in terms of sonification of movement, and that's where the data comes in. I saw the Takis exhibition just before I came here, and I'm very envious of people who have that sort of vision that isn't associated with, I suppose, traditional communication. And I'm especially interested in your stuff with language. One of the reasons I thought it'd be nice to come here today is because I'm currently working on a project not to do with language, well, to do with language, but not to do with semantics, but to do with a technical translation of the phonetics into sound. So, in a sense, trying to mimic the structures of language rather than the semantics of language into sound. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about a down-to-earth project. A combination of a team between Ericsson, King's College, and Fab Lab London VR. And what you actually see on the screen is a direct follow-on to the previous speaker, which was interested in movement, body movement, and music. Many of you probably heard of the theremin in the past, which has been around for over 100 years. And what we're trying to do is to commercialize the theremin sounds with 5G. Now, 5G is promising low latency across long distances. So what we're aiming at is an international music jam using 5G and with a particular product, this particular product which is made by Moog. So we're combining MIDI information as well as analog audio, but MIDI is more successful at long distance. The intermediate might actually be artificial intelligence robotics. We're not sure yet. But the instant thing that comes to mind is what information are we actually producing with our smartphones? And smartphones will be the earliest take-up of 5G. So if anybody wants to, a little bit more detail about this, and we're looking also at feedback, positioning in space, Jimi Hendrix guitar feedback. Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak, but I just want to say hi. This is really, really fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to the voice roundtable. I'm a singer who stopped doing elitist classical music. I'm just going to put that out there, and the fourth wall had to be brought down. And so I work in what I suppose participatory music, and I do a lot of things. And I'm here because I'm really interested. I work a lot with people over 60. And we do all kinds of projects, and they have a lot to say about what's going on with them in terms of their data and what's happening. And I'd like to really see where some of this might feed into the work I do in the future. But fabulous stuff. Thank you.
So I recently joined the University of Leicester as a lecturer in creative computing. But before I was at Goldsmiths working on a European project called Biomusic, working with Atao Tanaka, Michael Zbyszynski, and recently the team expanded to Federico Visi. And we were trying to use machine learning to make musical instruments. So we tried to model gestural data and scene parameters together to then allow musicians to explore sound and to continuously interact with sound. More information are in the paper there. And now that I'm in Leicester, there is a research group that works on hearing disabilities. So I'm trying to combine this work, so adding this kind of system to using also haptic feedback, and so to allow also people with hearing disabilities to perceive music through vibrating floors and other haptic feedbacks, and how to use some machine learning as a musical instrument for these people. Yeah. Great.
Hi, right, I should just use Ballandino's slides. I'm at Goldsmiths University along with the Tao and recently with Ballandino and with Francisco before. I started there building a general purpose AI for people doing embodied interaction with rich media. But my real core of what I like to do is I'm a musical instrument designer. So one could say that historically musical instruments have been constrained by physical reality. You know, if it's a violin or if it's a bass or something, the length of the string, where they are, you have to do a lot of adaptation to it. But we now have this opportunity with rich sensors, biosensors, motion sensors, cameras, etc. And I'm currently building AI-based instruments that map complicated motion data with complicated sonic data and regression and classification in the middle to try to have an instrument that rather you adapting to real-world physics, it is adapting to your needs and your movement possibilities. So I was on the biomusic instrument project with the Tao and continuing on to VR stuff, but yeah, that's where my research is.
So my name is Pierre Alexandre Tremblay. I'm a studio composer, mostly working in electroacoustic and chamber music. I also am a laptop and bass improviser in post-free jazz and in noise music. And I'm also the PI of the Fluid Corpus Manipulation project, in which I'm mostly a creative coder and subverter of all things. Why am I saying that? I've also been a rap producer, a festival curator, running these gigs, teacher as well. So I embrace the polyphony of these experiences. I've all done them professionally, and I think they cross-pollinate all the time. So my key value is that empowered artists are a taxonomy solvent. We're there to dissolve all these wonderful taxonomies. And this is where we're going to fight AI in positive manners, because it's a pattern-seeking technology, and fundamentally, we want to resist that. And that is a very beautiful, creative agonism, to quote our good friend Ms. Bourne. Quickly, there's too many things to say, but I think how do you empower people? It's not just giving them tools, but giving them knowledge, very important, and give these artists some interesting access to the big data software, for instance, for their small data sets is the kind of stuff I'm interested also in. Subversion. Noise is potent. I think the gulf of understanding is actually rich place to be, because misunderstanding is where poetry lies, and therefore I think we should bend the artifact. And at the moment, very concretely in the project, what we do is to give these tools to composers, and tasks that are taken for granted, like cutting signal, very boring things, in effect can be done in very different ways, and each of these have got different noises, each of them very sexy. Thank you.
Hey everyone, so it's great to be here. My name is Federico Visi, and as Valentino just mentioned, I'm contributing to the biomusic project at Goldsmiths with Tao and Michael, and I'm recently working on a reinforcement learning project. I'm a musician and researcher, and I'm very much interested in gestural interaction with sound and body interaction. And so I captured a screenshot just yesterday from Facebook, and you can see down here that a person on the link of the workshop commented, "Keep AI out of art and music," and there's an angry face there, okay? And I'm very much interested in this cultural aspects of how people perceive AI in music, and also the fact that certain people abhor the idea of having algorithms perhaps even replacing human creativity, no? And but what I'm interested in is instead the potentials of having machine learning and algorithms and artificial agents assisting human creativity, especially music making. So today I brought a little demo about the reinforcement learning algorithm, the reinforcement learning project that we're doing at Goldsmiths now, and that I'll be very happy to show you after the coffee break. And I'll be also very happy to join the panel with Pierre and Tremblay and Thor Magnusson later to talk more about tools and how can AI help us or maybe replace us altogether. Thank you.